imagine if the only place you could go to the toilet was your own home. This is a reality for 250,000 people in the UK, according to a 2011 study by the University of Dundee. So without a ceiling hoist, without a changing bed, without space for carers, many are stuck with the choice of staying at home, or if they do go out, deliberate dehydration, being changed on the floor of a public toilet, in the boot of the car, or whatever. Now, Mobiloo solves this problem by providing a mobile, fully accessible unit with all the space and equipment necessary for safe, dignified and hygienic changing. We go to hundreds of events all over the country every year. Demand for the service is growing exponentially to the extent that we simply can't meet it. So the need for growth is very, very apparent, and that's what we are aiming to do in the coming years.
Well, the need has always been there. It's becoming better known, I
Yes.
think, is the key here, because, you know, we're waking up as a society to just how little accessible design there is in the world. And of course, then there's the issue, you know, around economics and all of that unspent finance, because products and services just simply aren't available to disabled people. I'd just also like to add, if you're female and need transfer, often people in that situation will go up to 12 hours without using the toilet, and as you say, deliberate dehydration, and that's...
Which brings its own risks, of course. So you alluded there, Sam, to the sort of the spending power of the disabled community in the UK. Yeah. I think that stands currently at about £274 billion.
Wow.
Yeah, so,
Wow.
you know, when it comes to the question about, you know, why would an event organiser hire a Mobiloo? Well, without it, they're missing out on a big potential element of business for them, bit of revenue for them.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, the other thing is, you know, it's simply the right thing to do, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, why would you exclude a subgroup of your customers simply by not providing the right toilet? You know?
Absolutely. They're going to come to the event, they're going to spend monies in all the same kinds of ways that any other customer.
But we also have instances where the question of legality comes up in the Equalities Act as well.
Yeah.
And this is something that's kind of coming to the fore at the moment, with a case recently against a large festival organiser, where a group of disabled customers took a case, challenged the organiser under the Equalities Act and won the case. So this particular event organiser is now required to provide adequate toilet and change facilities at all of their events, which is a great step forward.
Brilliant. Yeah, things are really changing, aren't they? You know, when I'm at an event and I see a Mobiloo, I've got to be honest, it instantly puts a smile not only on my face but in my heart, because it's obvious to me immediately that this is an event that cares. This is an event organiser that's switched on and is aware of real needs, which is fantastic. Tell us about the vibrant colours of the branded on the Mobiloo.
Well, I mean, there's a few bits to that story. You know, we want it to be highly visible at events.
Oh, you certainly are, yeah.
Well, yes, we seem to have achieved that. And as a person with only 3% sight, you know, as I was coming here today using my sat-nav to navigate to the location, I actually could see the bright blue of the Mobiloo.
I did, as soon as I came around the corner.
My sat-nav said you've arrived.
So love that.
And, you know, there's a story also behind the colours. I did a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of study before setting Mobiloo up. And the colours I would describe as teal and purple. And the teal is a term that's used in a book by a guy called Frederick Laloux, who wrote a really good book called Reinventing Organisations, where he looks at the sort of evolution of consciousness of organisations, how they're run, and he adds a kind of a colour scheme, starting with the red organisation, which he would describe as sort of being like a mafia type, through what he calls kind of conformist culture, performance culture, which is like the dominant paradigm right now. It's all about performance management, you know. Then moving through to what he calls the teal organisation. So it's a spectrum of colour, with teal sort of at the end, sort of representing the organisation that has, you know, the right levels of democracy, which has the right levels of leadership, which has a relatively flat structure where everybody has their say in the running of the organisation. Anybody can have an idea and implement it if they use the right processes. We're a community interest company, which I believe is really, really important. So it allows us to trade, but also to receive grant funding and donations.
Fantastic.
So it's like a beautiful mix between a charity and a private company. It's got the benefits of both. So that's why we've chosen that structure. And a little bit about the purple colour as well. Another great book by a marketing guru called Seth Godin, and he wrote a book called Purple Cow, C-O-W. I have to spell it because my Irish accent isn't always understood. He was travelling through France on a train, and he was looking out the window and he saw black cattle, brown and white cattle, and then he saw a purple cow, and he thought, my God, that's remarkable. So his whole book is about remarkableness and how brands can build and grow quickly if they're not just finding a gap in the market, but actually creating their own market. And that's what Mobiloo has done.
Absolutely,
so it's that remarkableness that is captured in the purple that goes along with the kind of the culture associated with the teal colour.
I love the meaning behind that now. I'm never going to look at it in the same way. It's beautiful.
A lot of thinking has gone into it.
Yeah, nice. So in terms of the nitty-gritty, the numbers, I mean, how has the business grown? What are the numbers of events you're attending? How much you're making? You know, what's the projections for the future?
In our current manifestation, we've been running since March 2023.
Right.
So that's after having brought the project sort of in-house and operating it ourselves. We've grown from then up to a fleet of 6 at the moment.
Brilliant.
We have a variety of units. We have the van, which you can see here. We have the trailer unit as well. As I say, they're identical inside, the same space, the same equipment, same facilities. Amazing. And this year we have launched the very first Mobiloo pod. So as you can imagine, accessing the Mobiloo when you're in a wheelchair, you know, getting from ground level to floor level, that's a challenge. We achieved that initially by using a wheelchair lift. We've now moved towards using the ramp. It's more dignified. It gives people a much greater sense of freedom. They can come and go.
And it takes that mechanical element out. There's less to go wrong with that, right?
Exactly, so this year we've now launched the Mobiloo pod, which goes a step further. It doesn't need either a ramp or a lift because it magically lowers itself right down to ground level.
Amazing.
So you've got ground level access into it.
I love it.
You were asking about the fleet. Well, we've been developing the Mobiloo for 10 years now. We have many iterations. We're now on sort of the Generation 6 design, which you can see behind us, the latest Mobiloo van. Now, believe it or not, that is based on it's the same vehicle as the original Mobiloo, but it has double the floor space inside.
Fantastic.
And we've achieved that simply by rearranging things, by removing unnecessary objects, cupboards and so on. We're kind of victims of our own success, actually. We do receive far more inquiries than we can fulfill. Demand is very, very significant. We already are almost fully booked for July and August of next year. So what we find is that, you know, once an event has had a Mobiloo there, they can't go back from there. So the repeat business is around about 95%. It would be 100% if we had greater capacity to honour that.
Well, I mean, if I go to an event and I know that there's going to be a Mobiloo, for sure I'm going to go back. So James, if you were to outline like a blueprint for where, you know, Mobiloo's going over the next sort of 5 to 10 years, how do you see things?
I think we're only really scratching the surface in terms of meeting the potential demand. So it's a concept that didn't exist previously. So there's no benchmarking. You know, so it's kind of growing in two ways. So as customers, as event organisers, realise that they can genuinely include everybody by hiring a Mobiloo, by bringing a Mobiloo onto site. You know, we get growth in that way. But then on the sort of the beneficiary user side, as folk get used to the idea that there can be a Mobiloo at an event and therefore they can go, they will actually lift a phone to the event organiser and say, "Hey, I want to come to your event, but I can't come unless you book, you know, a Mobiloo, and here's the number." So we get a lot of business that way. And we've never spent a penny on marketing. The growth has entirely been through word of mouth. And what we find happening a lot is people will see us at an event, they'll come along, have a chat with the driver, facilitator, and they will say, "How do I get in touch? You know, I need this at my event." Brilliant. So that's how the business has grown so rapidly.
There's a very obvious need, and that's led to the success of Mobiloo up until this point. But talk to me more about the other ways in which Mobiloo have been so successful.
So I think it's a couple of things really. I mean, there's the product, there's the service. You know, the product, it speaks for itself. It has everything that anybody needs. The fact that we have a trained and experienced person there with it, who is welcoming people, who's keeping it clean, who's like acting as the kind of the the PR person for Mobiloo,
Yeah.
telling people about it, how they can get in touch,
Yeah.
and being that welcoming face. And we get an awful lot of feedback from customers and beneficiaries,
Yeah.
and they will specifically name the driver that they've met in an event and say,
Fantastic.
I want that person to come again
Oh,
next
I
year
love
because
that.
he or she was so lovely.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's really what it's all about.
So, I mean, let's jump in a time machine. Where's Mobiloo going to be at in 3 years' time?
I think we've got to the point where we've really proven the concept, and we've proven that the business can stand on its own 2 feet and wash its face. So I think the next step is to say, well, what do we need in order to ultimately meet the demand that will exist in 5 years' time? Because it's growing, demand is growing. It's a case of now looking at what's the most efficient way to achieve the growth that we need.
Yeah.
So to that end, we have just moved into much bigger premises in Gloucestershire.
Brilliant.
It's really great to be back in Gloucestershire because that's actually where Mobiloo was born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's very
Back to your
exciting.
roots. And very
So-
central. Great.
Exactly, much better access to the motorway network. So yeah, we're sort of in that refinement process now, certainly tweaking what we do, and we're looking at other ways of refining the efficiency of the business and making it work better. You know, a lot of people ask me the question, how many Mobiloos could there be to meet demand in the UK?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be somewhere in the hundreds.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I would
there's,
agree.
There's
Yeah.
different ways of calculating it. If you look at every event that exists in the country, and you say, well, you know, if there was a Mobiloo at every one, or if you look at the 250,000 who require the hoist and changing bed facilities, but obviously there are millions more. Like yourself, Sam, who, you know, wheelchair user, but not necessarily needing the hoist.
Yeah.
The
Well,
demand.
that's the thing with disability, right? I mean, it comes in so many shapes and forms. Isn't the statistic something like 20% of the population have some sort of disability at some point in their life?
Yeah, I think that's right. So this brings us on to the question of who can use the Mobiloo.
Yeah.
So the Mobiloo was originally designed really for those who needed the hoist and the changing bed.
Yeah.
What we've discovered since then is that actually there are many others with hidden disabilities, with learning disabilities, not just wheelchair users, who benefit massively from the Mobiloo.
Of course.
So, for example, I, with very limited eyesight, really struggle with festival toilets. Everybody struggles with festival toilets, but it's much worse for me in the dark, I can tell you that.
Oh, God, let's not go there.
Exactly. If you can't use an ordinary loo, you can use the Mobiloo. That's the simple line that we use.
So it's a huge customer base,
It
let's
is.
be honest. Yeah, wow.
It is.
What kind of events have you done this year? I'm really interested
You
to
name
know.
it, we do it, Sam. So yeah, we're obviously at a sort of smallish community event today. We do quite a lot of those.
Yeah.
Right up to the major festivals like Download, Creamfields, Boardmasters, Boomtown, Isle of Wight, and the list goes on. We do a lot of events in London, in Trafalgar Square for the Greater London Authority, like Diwali, the Eid Festival, St George's Day, St Patrick's Day.
Blimey, that's
Lots of
such a
sporting
spectrum.
events. Edinburgh Fringe. We've worked with the BBC and Channel 4 this year around the Paralympics. We even went to Paris, in fact, with Channel 4.
Wow.
So yeah, the list. I mean, we do weddings, we do christenings, we do funerals. You know, you name it, we'll be there.